Okay, guys, I'm just gonna start this while Sasha is doing his research because we have just recorded 18 minutes worth of podcast, and for some unknown reason, and I didn't pick it up, even though I have the computer right in front of me, um, the recording stopped at 4 minutes.
I think it was divine intervention because Sasha, aka me, have again forgot to turn down the fucking echo on my microphone. So,
Sip, laugh, learn.
come on, take a chance.
You're hanging out
with two tipsy plants. Yeah.
Two Tipsy Plants.
Pour the wine.
Grab your leafy friend.
We're diving in with no pretend. So that's going to be our small sneak peek into hopefully something that we have recorded today after a glass of wine or maybe two.
Yeah, and I mean, they might have heard the song before we started singing it if we've recorded it prior to this. We will have to speed talk through the wine as well because we've already opened it. Because as I said, we've actually recorded 18 minutes of this. Like, I can't believe this.
It's okay. Anyways, welcome to Two Tipsy Plants podcast, the podcast where we talk about plants and drink wine. My name is Sasha.
And my name is Sasha. By the way, this is take 3.
This is take 3.
Yes.
And that's okay. That means that we are going to be even better recording this time.
Yeah, and I have to keep an eye on my freaking... Okay, hold on. I'll just remove the mouse from the recording button in case I accidentally click it again. Okay, cool. Okay, Sasha.
Today's topic
is
the green architecture.
Green infrastructure.
Green infrastructure.
You made the same mistake before.
And essentially how it's used in urban design, usually. It is a little bit of a topic that is a piggybacking on our previous episode 28, where we have talked about the climate change and how the climate change affects the industries like winery and how the plants can adapt artificially by the process of selection or naturally to the climate change.
Now that you said that, actually, I think this topic is more on how we can use the plants and use the nature to actually help us adapt to the climate change.
It's not helping the plants per se, but it's helping our
humanity,
our cities essentially to withstand the climate change.
Yep, but before we start, can we just talk about our violated guests?
Our violated guests.
Now that they are called guests. All right, Sasha, speed. You have a minute to talk about Brut from Oyster Bay.
So today we have the Oyster Bay Brut, which is from Marlborough. It is nice and dry bubbles done with Chardonnay grapes, as far as I remember. It's from the cooler region, so we expect it to be a bit more on a crisp, dry side. This one particularly has nice and elegant fruity notes as well. I think this is less than 1 minute, which is okay.
Yeah, you've done really well. And the wine, actually, it's from Oyster Bay Winery, and you just want to have some oysters with it.
It is quite a season at the moment for oysters as well.
Yeah.
I just came back from Nelson region and... Mwah.
Speaking of Nelson region, I did tell you that, like... Oh, no, it wasn't quite Nelson. It was in Havelock, so it's more the Marlborough Sounds, which is in the same region. But you can find oysters just on the beach. And that's what we did when we were there for Christmas, and it was the best oysters we ever had.
It's okay. Next time I need to go with you because Jamie doesn't like seafood or oysters or anything that is fun.
But like just kayaking and stuff in there is actually a lot of fun.
No, I'm just kidding. He just doesn't like seafood.
Does he like fish though?
No.
Salmon?
He eats fish if he has to. The only time he eats fish, it's going to be fish and chips. And then we get disappointed because it's like, you don't eat fish and chips for a year, and then it's like, oh, what did I do this mistake again?
That's okay. People have preferences. I grew up in a region where, like, seafood is your staple, so I love seafood. But to be honest, it's not only that you can do there. There's a lot of hiking, beautiful activities. Anyway, this is not what we're here for. Green infrastructure. Do you know what green infrastructure is?
It is quite an open-ended question. You can ask either an architect or soil scientist or environmental person, engineer, architect. So from which point of view are you talking to me about?
I just want to say that, you know how I said we stopped recording at 4 minutes? When the last time I checked where we stopped recording, we were still talking about wine. Now we're already talking about the topic. So, you know, we sped run through the thing. Hopefully you guys are catching up with us. Yep. So green infrastructure, it's a relatively new and flexible term, and it's used it is used differently in different contexts. So as Sasha said, depending on who you ask, but generally it is used in describing the water runoff management, stormwater runoff management, and it is usually referring to systems and practices that use or mimic natural processes to infiltrate, evaporize, or reuse stormwater or runoff on the site where it is generated.
So just like rain gardens going to be a good example of that, I assume.
It is one of the examples, yeah. I just want to say that it can be used at a wide range of landscape scales. So rain garden is a relatively small scale, but you can have different scales. But it is definitely one of the
applications.
Tools, let's say. Yeah. Okay, so how about you start on the rain gardens then?
Yeah, it wasn't really my topic to cover, to be honest, but since we have discovered that already in our previous recording, that is not going to be released. I mean, I already have kind of background information on the rain gardens because of my work in the industry.
Actually, before we start that, how about I mention what I mentioned in the previous recording as well, that one good example, just to kick off the topic about green infrastructure, one good example is the Oakley, it's called Oakley Creek or Oakley's Creek in Auckland, also known as Tawai or Rakataura. The waters of Rakataura in Te Reo Maori. The area, so before the development of the land, it used to be like a wetland with a creek running through it. Obviously, when Pākehā came to New Zealand and started developing the land, they drained the wetland where the creek was, and they put a channel through the creek. They made it into a channel, and obviously, once you start developing the land from, you know, farmlands into the apartments and just living blocks, you have more surface runoff that does not penetrate into the ground, because obviously you need to build roads, you need to build paths. You have more roofs, and those surfaces act as a collection point, and then, you know, the water doesn't go through the ground, and because of that the stream started flooding, or the channelized stream. And what they did is they naturalized it, so they brought it back into the natural form to actually prevent that from happening. And this is where we started talking about the rain gardens.
Yeah. So yeah, rain gardens is usually used somewhere in your subdivisions or somewhere in a bit more busy areas of the city. Usually have they are put in around your roading areas. Why do you need rain garden? Because as Sasha mentioned, you have impervious surfaces like roading, pavers, houses, roofs, anything that can redirect or prevent the infiltration of water through the soil will result in runoff, which is like ponding of water on top of your impervious surface, and eventually it's going to like flash flood into one direction, depending on the slope of your area, and that can result in a very big damages for your infrastructure. So the rain gardens usually housing, and that will. So the rain gardens are human constructed by humans, artificially constructed, depressed areas in the landscape that collect the fresh rainwater, and they also filter it. So that can be either by like grit that's covered by stones, that and then you have like a really big container under it to actually redirect that flash flood, or like store it.
Yeah, so it kind of acts as a detention pond and a filtration system at the same time. So as Sasha said, you would usually have, this is like a good example. This is actually from CCC, the website, Christchurch City Council. So you would have It's like a depression. A good example is actually, by the riverside, you have rain gardens there. Have you ever noticed them? So where the bars are and where the steps are down to the river, there is like a portion of planted area. So those are rain gardens.
Okay, I haven't realized that.
Yeah. So next time you are there, just have a look at them because you'll straight away know that it's a rain garden. You would usually have a planted area with plants that are obviously that can take conditions like being constantly wet or being constantly dry because they have to be susceptible to extreme conditions. The ponding area is usually about 300 millimeters, so about 30 centimeters depth, where the water would stand before it seeps through. You never use bark for those mulch in those areas because simply if you have standing water, your bark will just float. So they usually use rounds, like gravel rounds.
Yep.
And then you do have like a drainage, not drainage layer, the rain garden mix, which usually filters. It's like a mix of sand and fine gravel and things that can actually absorb some of the pollutants as well.
Yep.
And then you have some sort of a filter cloth, more filtration.
That is literally the whole idea behind the bioreactors.
Yeah. So bioreactors are technically rain gardens, just not collecting the surface area. They're just cleaning the streams.
Yes, so
right?
essentially when you are draining your area, for example, you have area that you are draining that will result in a stormwater or wastewater production that is like channeled in a one way.
Yeah.
So you can put this kind of rain garden bed to filter that uniformly. Now that we're talking about it out loud, that sparked my memory now, because we're talking about rain garden, and that's a very small application of it. It's like it's a tiny project compared on the scale of the city. And now I remember that the other city that actually suffers from flash floods is Japan. And I don't know if you have seen that.
Japan is not a city, by the way.
Well, sorry.
Japan is a country.
Another country that suffers from flash floods is Japan.
Yeah.
And they have a really big infrastructure to actually deal with it. I'll show you the picture now. So this is like a big detention pond under the city that can... I actually have no idea how many megatons get.
Oh, flood tunnels. Wow.
Yeah, they have flood tunnels, which in the usual conditions can be as where people would hide from the bomb attacks, like shelters.
Oh, yeah?
And during the flash floods, it just stores huge quantities of water.
Just need to make sure that nobody's hiding there.
Yeah.
At that time. I'm sure there are measures to do that. Do you know what other country suffers from floods?
Singapore.
Exactly. Can you name one park in Singapore that has actually
Fort Canning?
No, Fort Canning is on a hill.
On a hill, yeah.
No. It's Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park.
I haven't been there.
I don't think we've ever been there, to be honest. I've heard about it so much because studying. Well, I started diploma.
8 years in Singapore. We have never been there.
No, and I started diploma in landscape architecture from Singapore. Was it constructed when I was doing that? Was it under construction? I can't remember. But anyway, this is exactly the same thing they did in Singapore as they did in Auckland here. There used to be just a concrete channel. There we go. It used to be a concrete channel where the Kallang River was actually flowing through. Is it Kallang? No, sorry. I don't think is it Kallang River?
It's Kallang River. I thought, okay. I thought Kallang is just the name of the metro station.
No, Kallang is a river. Apologies, I can't remember what river it is that flows through it. But pretty much, you know how in Singapore you have those massive concrete channels that store the rainwater. The same thing was done there, but then eventually they decided to naturalize it and kind of create the whole park is like a sponge. So it is a collection basin, and it fills up during the extreme rain events, and then just slowly filters through and goes.
Controllably releases the excess water, so you don't oversaturate the area and don't cause any destruction to the infrastructure.
Pretty much, but also it filters the water. Yeah. One of the tools that are used in Christchurch for that as well is like a bigger scale rain garden. It's called detention pond.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the subdivisions that are built in Christchurch, if you are building a subdivision, you are 90% of time you are required to have a detention pond.
Which can be turned into a wetland.
Not necessarily. So detention pond, there's a difference between detention pond and retention pond. So detention pond is meant to hold the water, sip it through and release it into a wetland, let's say. Let's say there is one detention pond just off Sparks Road that works together with the Sparks Road wetland.
So we just make sure that the wetland is going to be a permanent wetland, and it just drip feeds the water into the wetland.
I wouldn't say drip feeds it, but
it's not drip feeding, but like slowly releases it into the wetland. Yes.
Yeah. So detention basins are built for, like, when you're building a new subdivision, you're obviously putting roads, houses, paving onto it. So you're reducing the permeability of the ground, and detention ponds are built so that you are collecting the water that is running off those surfaces there, slowly filtrating it and releasing it into the stormwater system.
So yeah, that's where all your stormwater pipeline is going into, essentially, around your by the road subdivision.
Yeah, depending. Well, there is obviously a collection area, but retention ponds are the ones that are meant to hold the water constantly. So there's a difference between detention and retention ponds. Yeah.
Okay, shall we pivot away from the rain gardens?
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of got the idea what it's used for.
I must say the bubbles are hitting me really hard.
Did you eat today?
I had breakfast.
What was the breakfast?
Oh, it was good breakfast. We had salmon. We had like a toasty with avocado. We had veggies. We had an eggsy. And then I had those chippies, Yeah.
All right. I would like to pivot to another topic, which is going to be one of the other things that is considered green infrastructure, green architecture, which is going to be green roofs.
Yeah.
So
green roofs.
Green roofs. Welcome to my English.
Yeah.
So green roofs are used as the mean to capture some of the water, to provide the stops to provide the artificial habitat for the species in the area, to provide the stops for the insects to actually like hop through the city, to decrease the sunlight radiation, effects of sun, like to prevent the heating up of the.
Yep. So it reduces the heating up of the building.
And provide the small filtration of the air for the city. So that can be used as the means of offsetting. For example, if you have claimed so and so much area of of land and dedicated it to a big complex, that will have to have like some kind of either garden next to it, or a green roof, or green walls, or something that is incorporating greenery on it.
Apparently, it reduces the ambient temperature by 2 to 4%.
Which is
it's actually
a degree.
No, 2 to 4 degrees.
Okay.
Sorry. Yep.
Which is significant, because when you convert that into energy savings, just think about how your fans and your heating is running constantly in your offices, and then convert all those kilowatt hours into over the year, and that potentially is going to be your saving.
Don't quote me on this, but I think in Singapore you are actually required to, if you are to develop a condominium or something, you're actually required to do either a green roof or a green wall.
But is it from the perspective of actually offsetting, or is it for people's mental health? Because I think over there is for that reason.
No, it's actually for the purpose of offsetting, because they are taking up the rainforest and building the development there, so they kind of have to return that in some way. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure in some regions in Singapore you must have that, and that's why a lot of roofs in Singapore have green roofs.
Well, but you can quote me on this. In Toronto, apparently, since 2009, they are required to have green roofs on developments that are bigger in size than 2,000 square meters. So all your convention centers, all your shopping centers, that will have to have a green roof.
Speaking of green roofs and shopping centers, have you been to the new market in Auckland?
You have to be more specific. I don't know what you mean by new market.
Westfield
No,
Mall.
I haven't been to Auckland. Like, also, let's just say that I haven't been to Auckland that often to actually be through the markets. Most of the time when I'm in Auckland, it's for work.
No, it's not. It's a shopping mall in the city center, but they do have green roof there. Like it actually reminded me of Singapore so much because they have rooftop bars and like a rooftop garden there, which is really pretty and it does really well. So yeah, next time you are there, it's Westfield. Like it's also owned by Westfield.
But if we remember Singapore again, and all the green roofs, green balconies, and just like literally planter boxes on the sides of the house, they really widely use, I think mangroves or even.
Well, no, you wouldn't use mangroves because mangroves they require different conditions. Philodendrons, sedums are actually quite popular in
They
roofs.
use a lot of climbers in there as well, like just jasminoides something.
Oh, I can't remember the
Some kind
names
of
of tropical plants now, sorry.
But yeah, they use a lot of sedum, they use a lot of native grasses.
Lots of ficuses.
Wildflowers, depending on the area that you are in. You can use wildflowers to attract the pollinators, just to kind of improve the biodiversity in the city area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and herb gardens, depending in the area that, like for example, if it's a condominium, which is like a high density of people living, they'll actually in one of the HDBs that I used to live in Singapore, they have like
community garden.
They have a community garden that is like just the one level of the between two HDBs is dedicated to a children's playground and a herb garden, which was quite cool.
It's also it has that social aspect in it, right?
Yep.
Because yeah. Do you?
That was all that I wanted to cover on the green roofs, but
Okay.
I do think it should be a bit more of a regulatory kind of point for each of the cities. Like if you are taking out the area from the city center, or like if we're talking about taking out the area,
You're talking about like if you are taking out the natural habitat / area / greenery and building something on top of it, you have to.
You have to give back somehow.
Yeah. With green roofs and green walls, it's a little bit tricky just because it is quite expensive to build it.
Yeah.
Just because of the weight. Like if you think about the roof, right? The weight, the water management, how do you do that so it doesn't leak through? But also the fact that it's very sunny up there. Yeah. So it is a little bit tricky. But obviously, if you are a massive convention center, I'm pretty sure you can afford to do that. That's fine. Yeah.
Because that's going to be another tourist attraction for your convention center, and then people will spend more money there. Just an idea, guys.
Well, I mean, we when we went to that new market mall in Auckland, we actually had food up on the roof because there's like a really nice German place which serves really nice sausages and like beer and those massive 1 liter mugs. It was really nice just sitting on the roof there. So yeah, it does have its benefits.
Bring nature back into the city.
Yeah.
Okay. Your turn.
What I wanted to kind of dive into is more how plants function in green infrastructure. So
they breathe.
I'll call out some topics and then you can tell me if you have something to say to those topics, because I did some deep dives on specific plants that are very good for certain areas. So if we are to talk about plant function in green infrastructure, it doesn't necessarily have to be just the surface runoff and water management. However, the first topic that I have here is stormwater management and hydrological control. Some examples are interception of the water. So the rainwater, when it falls down, if you imagine a like a rain in Singapore, tropical rain, right? Your droplets, obviously I'm exaggerating, in New Zealand they'll be that big, in Singapore they'll be that big. So if you have exposed ground under big drops like that, I'm just sort of
causing the surface erosion.
I'm sort of doing an okay sign, so connecting my pointing finger with my thumb. They will cause surface erosion. So using big trees that have leaves to intercept that and break the little droplets down before they hit the ground.
Break the momentum.
It's called the interception, pretty much. So you intercept the rainfall with the leaves, and that can actually be 40%. Like it can reduce the size of the droplet by about 40%, depending on the tree that you use, right? I'll dive deep.
It's a really hard topic, to be honest, because I wanted to find a good calculation for the interception per the tree species, and there is research, but there is no calculation that actually discloses how to actually calculate it correctly.
Yeah.
So I
guess
really
you
need
have...
it for one of the projects.
I do wonder, just out of curiosity, maybe. So as an example, one of the trees that is like probably the best example in Singapore is Samania saman. Samania saman is called a rain tree or umbrella tree. So imagine driving through Singapore highway. Imagine, the are they called highways? Motorways? No, highways? What are they called? I can't remember. But you know what I mean, right? Yeah. Where you have multiple lanes. They have the garden in the middle of the road and a massive tree that kind of does that. Yeah. So those are the rain trees. Is it the
acacia one? Or
no, it's Samania saman.
Okay.
Yep. So that tree, it has relatively small leaves, so maybe that's why you're thinking acacia, but they're massive.
And it still looks like acacia.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Monkey pot tree.
Yeah. So they're massive, but they're used for that purpose quite often.
It looks like acacia tree with the flowers from Hutakawa.
No, I think that's a flower from Albizia.
A bit more approachable, please, for people who don't know all the plants.
Can you Google Albizia and tell me what it's called? I can't remember the common name. Albizia. What is the common name?
Albizia.
No.
Persian silk tree.
Yeah, silk tree. There you go. Yep, silk tree. That's right. I knew that all the time. No, all of the time. Yes, I knew that. Anyway, so the funny thing about the rain trees, though, the Samania saman tree, they're also known as 5 o'clock tree, because apparently...
because you can drink wine under them.
Because apparently the leaves fold in rainy weather and in the evenings. So I don't know how the interception of the rain actually works when they actually fold in the rain. I guess like mimosa does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shy plant.
Yeah. But they are also, like as a bonus point for them, they are also great for carbon sequestration because they are so massive and they are so long-leafed that they can store a lot of carbon in them. Yeah. But speaking of how you would calculate it, I almost feel like what you need to do is draw a massive circle or a polygon or a circle around the crown and then just literally sit there for a couple of days during the rain and kind of calculate that.
There is a research in New Zealand based, which is usually covers only pines and beech forests. But you don't only calculate the interception of the rain, you also need to include the evapotranspiration.
Yeah.
You need to include the runoff under that tree. In that area, and it gets really complicated.
It does, but at the same time, I can't tell you how many times I've been hiking through like a beech forest, and you go into the opening, you get completely drenched, and then you actually start hiking through the bush, and you get a little bit of a droplets, even though the rain is still the same. So it does work, the interception, but some of the other good examples are Platanus occidentalis, which is an American sycamore, which is another massive tree.
Sycamore.
Apparently typically reaching up to 30 to 40 meters high and 1.5 to 2 meters in diameter. However, the largest species has been measured to be 53 meters high and nearly 4 meters in diameter.
Wow.
baobab.
Wow.
Yeah, and one of the local trees is Metrosideros excelsa.
Can you be a human? What is that?
Metrosideros excelsa.
Again.
Pahudakawa.
Okay, thank you.
Which is, again, it grows up to 25 meters. It's a slow-growing tree, but once it's mature, it's actually massive, and it does the same function. Like, it can act as a interceptor for the rainfall. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nothing to add to this topic in particular.
Okay. Another sort of sub-item under stormwater management and hydrological control is infiltration and percolation. So
again, rain gardens?
Not necessarily. You can do that in just normal gardens. But that is having plants grow in, let's say, clay soils to actually break up that compacted soil and create some permeability and porosity into it. So that the water can soak into the ground rather than running off it. Obviously, that reduces your runoff, reduces your collection point where that water is run off, and essentially reduces the...
Yeah, and it also means that water can go freely through the soil, and soil has a natural capacity to filter your whatever water is, like whatever it have picked up on the top of soil. And if you...
Whoa. Rosie has something to say.
And if you have the runoff, one of the bad things about the surface runoff from the impervious surfaces is that it's full of chemicals that it picked up as it was going by. So it's quite concentrated most of the time compared to your typical like stream, for example.
Yeah.
Like heavy metals and shit.
Yeah, I actually do have some good plant examples later about that too. Oh, whoa. Sorry, Rosie has something to say. But yeah, there's obviously some of the systems that do that are rain gardens, as you mentioned, detention ponds, bioswales, and permeable landscapes.
What's bioswales?
Bioswale.
Bioswales.
Yeah. So it's like it's pretty much like a small channel, which is not a channel, which is like a little stream.
Constructed channel.
A stream. Like it's not a concrete channel. It's just a stream.
And what does the bio do? Is it just filled up with something to filter?
You have plants.
Okay.
So the plants.
So riparian planting.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's building little streams and bioswales that actually direct that water into detention pond. Let's say bioswale is just one term. I think in New Zealand you mostly use just waterways. So waterway is a bioswale, pretty much. Yeah.
For people who are not in the know, what is riparian planting, Sasha?
It's planting on the edges of streams and
artificial or natural streams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like anything that has water.
Yeah.
To decrease the temperature, to provide the habitat, to stabilize your banks.
Yep.
To decrease the speed of the water going into the stream.
Hence, reduce the erosion.
Reduce the erosion, prevents eutrophication, which is the cause of algal blooms, because when you have the surface runoff, you have a lot of phosphates going into your water, and nitrates usually are already in the water by then, and you have algal blooms. Talking about algal blooms, that kind of pivots into my segment.
Yeah.
One of the use of algae, besides people hating on it, is using it as, well, kind of as awareness thing and as the natural way of air purification.
So how about you actually explain what algae bloom is and how it happens in
nature?
In nature, but also in modified environments. Like, why do we have that as a problem in New Zealand, let's say?
In New Zealand, we have a big problem of algal blooms, which happens because of, like, usually it's from the farmland perspective. So you have farms that apply phosphate for the pasture to grow nicely. They apply nitrates for pasture to grow nicely.
But also the cows poop and they
have nitrates.
Have nitrates in their poop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the nitrates usually go quite easily. They leach through the soil, but then they will still end up in your stream one way or another because of the undersurface.
Because of the surface runoff, as we said.
Surface runoff, but most of the time it's not because of the surface runoff.
It's groundwaters.
It's because of the groundwaters or because the subsurface runoff, depending on how big your rainfall event is.
Yep.
But because of the surface runoff, so the phosphates is the other contributor to the algal blooms. Phosphate.
I thought that nitrate is the biggest one. No.
The combination of two.
Okay.
You will not have algal bloom because you have only one.
Okay.
You need to have two. So the phosphates usually binds to your soil. So when you have soil runoff, surface runoff, you usually have a lot of surface going with soil surface going with it.
I see the bubbles are getting into you as well.
Yes, and that means that your surface water has high inputs of phosphorus and nitrogen, and that causes the algal bloom because they just gobble it up and they proliferate and they become a really big pond covered in sheet of algae.
What is algae bloom?
Algae bloom is uncontrollable growth of algae covering the whole area the whole surface of the pond, making it eventually anoxic, so low in oxygen as well.
Yeah. So algae bloom usually grows on top of it, but there's also another one that kind of forms the matting on the rivers and stuff that is poisonous to dogs, let's say.
That depends on which kind of algae variety you're talking about. That one is a Didimo.
Okay.
I think you're talking about.
It's like a blackish one that covers the ground, like a matting.
That one is the poisonous one. That is also not native. It was introduced species.
Okay. So what Sasha is saying is algae bloom is actually a natural phenomenon. The phenomenon that happens, but because of the intensive agriculture, modified with intensive agriculture, it just happens too often and too much of it. It feeds the actual algae too much, so it just covers the whole surface of the pond, and it doesn't allow the light through. It reduces the amount of oxygen, and hence, like, the fish might die, the other things in the water might die. I'm just more of a like Sasha is very technical with his explanations. I'm just trying to make it a bit more layman, sort of.
Thank you, because I sometimes don't, like, that's my general critique usually in my life. Like, you're too technical. I'm like, I don't know how to dumb it down.
That's actually something that you should do before your conference. Write it down and then have someone who doesn't have any knowledge about what you're talking about, or maybe some knowledge, so they can help you, like, sort of dumb it down, as you said. I don't know if Jamie can help you with that.
You probably can, because you probably can't.
I wouldn't mind, but you probably want a native English speaker to do that.
He can do proofreading.
Yeah.
But that was the bad example of what is algae bloom and how of algae and how it impacts our environment. But what is being researched at the moment is to use algae to improve our environment in one way or another.
Yep.
One of my colleagues actually was really fond of algae, so he was like, okay, let's do the detention pond from one of the...
James?
Yes.
I know James.
Oh, not the hydrogeologist. No.
Oh, okay.
The other James.
Oh,
He's
also James. Okay. Sasha looked at me like, what? Okay. Shout out to James, even though I don't know him.
So he likes the idea of using algae for the benefit of the humanity because it actually grows really quickly.
But it is true, right? If you have turning a problem into a solution is actually great.
Well, to be honest, algae is a sponge. It kind of gobbles up the nitrates and phosphates really quickly. So it's great. It's just uncontrollable.
Yeah.
But if you can control it, it's a greater solution.
Okay.
So his idea was to use the detention ponds or retention ponds. And for example, from your farmland, you have the water going there. You let algae gobble it all up, and then you scrape it off. And then you have a high nutritious fertilizer that you can apply on your land.
But wouldn't that eventually bring the same amount of nutrients back into the stream?
Well, you also need to be able to control your sediment you need to do the means of sediment control,
Okay.
like riparian plant. It's not a solution. It's a solution in conjunction with something else.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. This
So-
is why I'm questioning it.
Yeah. So that's just one of the ways to remove the nutrients which are in excess and apply it for the benefit of humanity, of the farmer, for example. You don't need to spend money on your fertilizers. You spend money on removing the algae, like dredging.
Okay, yeah.
The other way of using algae for the benefit is using algal panels. Have you heard of that yet?
Is that drying them up and using them for something?
No, I think you're using. I think you're thinking about diatomaceous earth or something like that. No,
I don't
maybe
know.
not.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, not that then. So
No, I was more thinking of, like, you know how you can use mosses, let's say, like dried up mosses as like sound acoustic barrier.
no, tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously it's
That's all of it. You can use dried up mosses for the acoustic area. That's it.
well, I mean, okay, if you have, I mean, obviously we are a bit of a lower budget recording studio here, recording where we can, but if you have a proper recording studio, to prevent the sound bouncing off the walls, you can have moss walls, and it doesn't have to be a living moss. It can be a dried up moss that's been preserved. Like there's a YouTuber called Mr. Who's the Boss. He does like tech reviews, right? I think you know him, yeah. So he's done that in his house. He has like a moss wall with his logo on it, but the moss, it looks living, but it's not. But it is for that purpose. Like it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's actually an acoustic barrier. So hence I thought maybe you can use algae for it, but yeah.
Nah, algae, no. Algae decomposes and it smells.
Okay.
So, yeah. So for the algae to use it as a natural air purifier, what have been done is they have used algae panels, which is transparent structures which are filled with microalgae that capture carbon dioxide, release the oxygen into the atmosphere.
Okay.
But the drawback of that, algae kind of grows from that, so you need to remove it from the system occasionally. Like every 2 weeks, you need to kind of drain the excess algae and use it for something else. So sell the fertilizer. I don't know. So what it's going to be, what it was used for so far, I'll show you. One of the projects is called Liquid Tree. So it's in Serbia. So what is the issue in Serbia is that it has one of the worst air qualities. One of them, not China, but still. So it kind of captures the CO2 from the air. I think the main target of this campaign was to raise the awareness because it looks very.
It's a very small scale. What Sasha is showing, I'll try to find that picture and put it in the video if I can. Maybe save that link and just send it to me directly. But it's like a little sitting area with a panel. It's like a bus stop panel, kind of.
It's a bus stop panel cube.
With green wool.
With algae in it, which is kind of capturing the carbon dioxide over the time, purifying the area, the small area. So this is more of the awareness campaign, I would say.
Well, this is more to show what it can do, but obviously, like on the scale of the street, it's very small. But if you think about it, there's an abundance of algae.
Mm-hmm.
So, like too much algae, that's what I'm trying to say. So if you are to do it on a bigger scale, it might work. So it's a good sort of trial, call it that way, yeah.
You can do this, and what it was also used for, at least in the concept design, is to use the algae as the curtains. So you would use like kind of like, you know how you
like window curtains.
Like window curtains. You know how you play Snake, and when it's too long, it kind of ends up being like very meandery.
Yeah.
So that's essentially the pattern that they have for algae.
It's like kind of weaving pattern sort of thing.
Weaving pattern of algae through the curtain. So it kind of captures the sunlight. It captures the CO2 from the room. Or if you...
How often do you need to replace those curtains?
You need to drain them sometimes. So I think it's like having your own house plant. that is kind of contained. It's like using, if you think about it nicely, and just like if you want to sell it to somebody, it's your in-house pet
Rosie, don't
biosphere
knock my microphone.
that you need to sometime take care of.
Sit. Rosie, don't knock my microphone. Girl.
Oh wait,
Sorry, my microphone is very sensitive and
Rosie,
I don't...
down.
Sit.
Lie down.
Sit. Come on, girl. Sit down. Down, good girl.
Lie down.
See, I don't mind you being nearby. It's just your tail is a killer. Rosie has a big ass tail. She's a Rottweiler
And a
cross
big ass.
Ridgeback cross Staffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's a big girl with a very big tail that smashes everything around it. She's the sweetheart, but she doesn't know that she's that big.
So yeah, that was the other article that I found. The name is like, this pollution busting windows clean the air with photosynthesis. So essentially what they
It's
say,
just about the curtains.
that's about the curtains. So essentially they remove the same amount of carbon as 20 large trees in a day.
I mean, it would be interesting to see that in real life in terms of like, how do you manage it? Because obviously all those solutions are great, but you need to explain
But they're
how
all
to...
concept design, and how applicable they're in real life and how impactful they are for day-to-day person like me and you and the listeners. Like, yes, we all like to have the houseplant 1 or 2, but how much care does
One
go
or
into
two,
that?
or Sasha, 100?
And how much care will go into the curtain? I have no idea.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you might... I don't know how much that would be to install curtains like that, but like looking in your house, let's say we are sitting in this room, right, with the kitchen and the living room together. Sasha has a lot of plants in here. Well, Sasha and Jamie, but I just know that most of the plants are Sasha's. Obviously, they are doing that.
All but 2.
Obviously, they are doing that work as well, right, by filtering the air.
There is research done by NASA that your houseplants don't remove that much of, like, don't purify your air that much as you think you are. In order to actually purify a small room, you need at least 200 plants in that small room.
Is that what you're aiming for?
Yeah. So, but the reason why they're using algae, bigger surface area, they process it quicker.
That's what I wanted to say. So how does that compare to, let's say, your living room? Because you do have a lot of plants.
So algae do work better.
So if it was me, right, then if I was to have, like, looking at that curtain, right, it's a big curtain there because it's like a corner window / French door. If I was to have just that curtain that I have to take care of and not everything else that is in your room, I would probably prefer that. If it does more than the plants, right?
Yeah. But also, I'm having plants because I like plants, not because I want the curtain.
I'm not saying that. I'm just more trying to compare the actual benefits, right, without the aesthetics of it. But then at the same time, what is involved into caring for that curtain?
Yeah.
Do you have to water it? Do you have to, like, spray it? Do you have to have...
It's isolated, so it's like...
Oh, I didn't know that she can howl.
Give me a second. She howls at night when she sleeps and dreams about something sad.
Like, I mean, I know it's annoying, but at the same time, it's like, oh. Can you check if the video is still recording?
So, the way that it works, actually, it's essentially 2 isolated panels that have algae in it. So it's recycled plastic, probably, that has algae in it.
Okay.
So you can probably from the top you
So can you open those curtains?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's soft plastic.
Yeah.
So you probably recharge it with water from the top. Potentially you need to add some nutrients. I don't know. It's a concept design again.
Yeah, no,
but then you need to drain from the top, from the bottom.
That's the thing. That's another thing I wanted to say. Do you have, like, a matting under that collects the water just so you can maintain and stuff?
You don't need to drain it all the time.
You're saying, like, take it off and then squeegee it.
You need to drain a sediment. So you have too much algae. Over the time, it just develops too much. So the productivity will drop.
Okay.
So what you need to do is remove the excess. So you'll probably have, like, some kind of opening at the bottom which you need like a bucket or something to get rid of algae that is there, and then you recharge from the top.
I like the idea.
Sounds like too much.
No, I do think it has potential. I just, hopefully they can find people to invest into
maybe
it.
Maybe not for the house though.
No, maybe not for. I mean, maybe in the future they can develop something that will, do it for them.
Also found the article on the air purifier that uses the same thing, but judging by the amount of the typos in that article, I don't know if I want to believe it. Like there are a lot of typos within the text itself. But the idea looks cool to use the air purifier that has the algae base. So it will just like run the air through it. It will remove the impurities and CO2, release the oxygen that algae produces. How effective it is, how efficient it is, not really sure.
It's like one of those Kickstarter projects
that never comes out.
But also there's this guy, Thunderfoot, I think, on YouTube, who kind of debunks a lot of projects like that, because he has quite a scientifically driven mind. Not saying that it's bad and bullshit. I'm just saying that sometimes
it's all a sham.
I just think sometimes they just need to sell that idea to someone bigger to actually develop it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but obviously it depends on whether anyone wants to buy that idea. Yeah.
The typical algae species for this kind of projects will be Chlorella vulgaris, which has high CO2 absorption rate and easy to culture. Spirulina, which is also used as a biofuel and nutrition.
Is spirulina an algae?
Yeah. You don't know?
Manka. Manka.
Spirulina is not manka. Spirulina is the algae that you dry up and use as a powder for nutritious purposes.
Oh, it's that green powder. That's right. Yep. Sorry, no. Well, what's manka then?
That I don't know. I hate that.
Same.
It gave me PTSD back in the
from like kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Thank you.
Max loves it. What is it called? Gosh, I'm sorry.
But yeah, the collected. So when you drain the curtain, for example, you have or drench the thing. Semolina.
Yeah. Apologies.
So when you drain the curtain, you have all that waste that later can be used for biofuels. The curtain is an example. There are
curtains.
There are a bigger ways to harvest algae.
Yeah.
So that excess algae can be used as biofuels. It can be used as compost or as an animal feed, or it can be used as a bioplastics. So that algae can be actually dried and recycled to be your takeaway container.
That's really cool.
Next is going to be segment hosted by Sasha, which is...
Sorry, the wine went into the wrong
hole.
Yeah. Just to touch, I'll just do a quick run back on the stormwater management and hydrological control. Gosh, that wine is getting into my head. Evapotranspiration. Transpiration.
I don't think it's the wine that is getting in your head. I think it's the RTD plus wine that is getting into your head.
Well, possibly, but also the bubbly. Like the bubbles always get into your head. Using the plants that can absorb quite a lot of water. One of the probably best examples that is common in New Zealand, which is kind of, I guess it's a good plant and it's a bad plant at the same time, is a raupo, a cattail, Tifa latifolia. So raupo, it actually absorbs a lot of water.
But it's a flax kind of thingy.
Cattail.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it absorbs a lot of water.
Does it evaporate? Where does the water go? Okay.
Yep, it is used for evapotranspiration.
Okay.
Yep. And obviously raupo has a lot of traditional uses in New Zealand, but also...
Kamish.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sorry, I was just sitting here just like boiling, like what the hell is the name of it in Russian?
Yeah.
Kamish.
Raupo. Tifa. So Tifa species are, like, they're great for that purpose, but the only problem with Tifa species is if you have them in the waterway, this is all that you're going to have, because they grow so fast. They just, even if they're
very
native,
dense as well.
So same with like Raupo. Raupo is actually native. It's not endemic, but it's native. But it just overtakes everything else in the garden. Like hints like it's a bit of a problem, but at the same time, they actually absorb a lot of
nutrients that are excess, but like pollutants.
Pollutants, yeah. So
apparently once your nutrients are above the certain threshold, they are pollutants.
Yeah, but like Raupo is used as a bioremediator, so they do absorb quite a lot of pollutants from the water, and because Raupo is actually edible, they do tell you
it's edible.
Yeah.
Which part?
Don't know. I'm assuming not the actual cattail, because if you eat that, you will choke.
Yeah.
Yeah. But another plant that is really good at for
bioremediation.
No, not for bioremediation, but for absorbing water and holding a lot of water in it is Colocasia esculenta. Do you know what that is?
Taro.
Yes.
Yes. You just had to say that water
Colocasia.
and Colocasia because back from Rarotonga, all I saw was literally fields of Colocasia, and I'm like, okay, so that's taro.
I am pretty sure that Cook Islands grow. I think it's 70% of their fields is taro, and taro is actually really good as a obviously it's a starchy source of food, but it's as staple as potatoes in Polynesian countries, right? Raw taro leaves are 86% water.
Yeah, that's why it's really hard for you to have Colocasia as a houseplant.
Because you have to constantly water it.
Well, it's also quite finicky.
Yeah.
So if you overwater it, it will rot in an instant. But if you don't give it enough water, it will lose leaves in an instant. So
yeah,
I was never able to grow it.
So 86% water, 7% carbohydrates, 5% protein, and 1% fat. In the raw form, it's actually quite toxic. I don't know if you know that, because of the presence of calcium oxalate.
The actual bulb or the...
I'm assuming the
leaves.
The tuber. Because you usually eat the tuber. You don't eat the leaves, you eat the tuber, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, you don't eat. You definitely don't eat leaves. The leaves is the poisonous part of the plant, just like in potatoes.
Well, yeah. So the tuber is actually poisonous until you cook it.
Did you know that when potatoes arrived to Europe, people didn't know that you have to eat the potatoes, and they tried to eat the tops, and they got poisoned.
Yep, I'm pretty sure you've mentioned it in one of the podcast episodes as well.
Probably.
Gosh, the sun is right on my face. That's okay. But another plant. No, I'll probably skip that plant. We're getting close to 1 hour recording. That's okay. Oh, Sasha is moving the curtains. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Good.
Jamie, can you turn the lights on for us?
No, it's okay.
No?
Nah, it's fine.
We're dark.
All good.
In the video.
It's okay.
Okay.
We are past 1 hour mark anyways. 1 hour mark. So yeah. I'll just quickly touch on the other one. Water quality improvement. So plants can be used, obviously you can use them in rain gardens, in your detention ponds, in your waterways, to filter the pollutants in the water. So similar to what we said about the raupo, the cattail. Did you know, I actually did not know that, but canna lily.
Yep.
It can actually be used to treat industrial wastewater through constructed wetlands.
Okay. What does it absorb in particular? What is the targeting?
I'm not sure what exactly it's targeting, but it's been proven very useful in removal of high organic load, color, and chlorinated organic compounds from paper mill wastelands.
Oh.
Wastewater.
Which is actually... It's really high in toxicity, the paper production.
Yeah. I knew that canna, because canna is it's a tuber, pretty much, a bulb, and it keeps multiplying to grow. We use it a lot in landscape architecture, actually, but depending on the area, because sometimes they can get quite invasive, just because of how they multiply. But yeah, I
what about agapanthus? Is there any research on agapanthus?
Did you see that reel that I sent you?
No, I haven't yet.
No, there's a reel about like the guy's like, I hate agapanthus. Why is everybody uses agapanthus everywhere? I don't know if it has any benefits, agapanthus, but I know
I hope it does.
in New Zealand, some of the species are actually very invasive and some of them are not. I think I told you that in Hagley Park they have a trial, like a little garden where they planted different agapanthus species just to see which ones are invasive and which ones aren't.
No, I didn't know. It would be interesting to see and take a picture of that.
It's not too far from the cafe. You know the cafe? Yeah. So it's not too far from there.
Ilam?
Yeah, something like that. So if you are to walk towards the museum, there's one big sequoia or something tree. I can't remember what tree it is.
There is also five more years until they open the
museum.
Not the museum, the glass house.
Oh, did they close it as well?
Yeah.
The Cunningham or whatever it's the
they have closed it for reconstruction.
They closed a lot of things. Like the whole museum is locked for I don't know how long. Anyway, and another. The water quality improvement plant, bioremediation. That's the actual term, right? So one of them was the canna. It takes it takes all the nutrients, right? So cannas could be used to actually reduce the amount of algae, let's say, in the ponds. But cannas are not native to New Zealand. The other one is heavy metal absorption. So
that's good.
It's really good. So one of them is actually mustard greens.
Mustard greens are good for heavy metal absorption.
Yeah. Brassica johnsia, mustard greens. So they are used in phytoremediation to remove heavy metals such as lead from the soil and hazardous waste. Yeah, lead. Sorry, from hazardous waste sites because it has a higher tolerance for those substances, so it can actually hold more of them in. Right.
Okay.
So that's one of them. The other one is Helianthus annuus. Helianthus annus.
Sunflower.
Yes, not annus, but annuus. So I was reading about this, and then I remembered that they do tell you that if you eat sunflower seeds, it actually helps to get rid of the metals in your body. I don't know how true the actual sunflower
that is bullshit. No.
Yeah, but you know, I'm guessing they are getting that from this fact.
Yeah, so people just like kind of connecting two different facts to get their idea through.
Yeah, but Helianthus is actually great in phytoremediation, and it extracts pollutants from soil such as lead and other heavy metals such as cadmium, zinc, cesium, strontium,
yeah, cesium, strontium, and
uranium apparently as well.
That's good. Thank you for information. I will use it on my work.
The process begins by absorbing a heavy metal through the roots, which gradually accumulate in other areas such as shoots and leaves. Makes me wonder if it accumulates in the seeds, because being Slavic, we love our sunflower seeds.
There is actually not a science, but there is a way to see how quickly your nutrient is being transported throughout the plant. Some of the nutrients are localized, so if it was used up or introduced into the plant during the development stage, it will stay in the leaf. But such nutrients like nitrogen or potassium or phosphorus, those are a bit more movable, so they will actually go from your leaf and be redistributed for the new growth. That's how you see the yellow leaves on your plant, because those leaves are deficient in that particular nutrient, because it's using up that stored nutrients. Some of the nutrients are not transferable like that. So hopefully metals are not, because by the time it is actually in at the seed stage, it hopefully kind of cleared the area.
Yeah.
But why I'm saying that the brassicas are scary is because you never know what kind of soil you have in your garden.
Well, this is why they're saying that you gotta be careful what you're putting in your soil, and this is where see, you bought a house.
and you
Oh no! If you bought the honestly,
you need to test your soil.
if you bought the house and if you're planning, 300. It's 300 now.
Yeah, metal.
If
yes.
you want to do
heavy metals is expensive. Yes.
I mean, through hills, let's say it's about 300. Yeah. But yeah, so if you want to use the soil that is in your garden to grow stuff, definitely do that. I know that our soil is okay because it's been used in like the half of our backyard was veggie garden before. Yeah, but like if you're buying a new house and you're planning to have like a productive backyard, the only reason I'm saying is because I've been posting a lot of my veggie garden adventures on our Instagram.
So yeah, and you hopefully have seen the picture of your boot in a car with all the bags of soil. So even if the soil is contaminated, she kind of filled over top of it.
What I wanted to say is, Sasha, we have guests and we gotta finish it a little bit earlier, but to be honest, earlier is
not 1 hour, really 7 earlier,
minutes. Yeah. And we can continue blabbering about this topic.
Are we able to do the part 2? Because I still have 2 topics to talk about.
Actually, how about we do that? How about we do part 2?
I think we should do the part 2 because I have 2 more topics.
I have a few more things in there as well, and we can maybe do part 2 in green infrastructure plus a bit more diving deep into maybe case studies. How about we do case studies?
Let's do case studies.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for... Hold on. That's a wrap from Two Tipsy Plants. Thank you for hanging out with us and for listening to our plant shenanigans. If you want to follow us, please follow us on Instagram at the Two Tipsy Sashas. And also you can listen to our podcast on any podcasting platform as well as YouTube.
You also can listen to Rosie right now.
Yeah, it's okay. Anyway, thank you for listening to us. We will be back in a few weeks, and keep it green.
And keep it tipsy.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Pour the wine.
Grab your leafy friend.
We're diving deep
with no pretend.
Plants in mind
and a glass of wine in hand.
Now welcome back to Two Tipsy Plants.
Banter on, we're spilling the tea with wine, bad jokes and greenery.
Sip, laugh, learn.
Come on, take a chance.
You're hanging out with
Two Tipsy Plants.